is an awful humming noise.
Okay, good. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. The regular board meeting of the Lake Placid Central School Board of Education will be called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is the consent agenda. The recommended action is approve the items below, which are included in the consent agenda. 5A, the meeting minutes from the October 6th regular board meeting. 7A, which is the external audit report approval. 7C, which is the LGS 1 resolution, the retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records. And 7E, special education. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, please?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Liam. Second?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. All these items acceptable to everyone prior to voting? Any comments? If not, if you'd please vote. Okay, 7 yes, 0 no, the motion passes. For the good of the cause, do we have anything, Karen?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to the reports. Special education. Our CSE chairperson, Sarah Allen, was with us tonight for her annual special education update. I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Did you?
Anders is going to do it first. I changed it.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's okay. Okay, go to reports. First one is the student project presentation, this senior project. We have Anders Stanton with us tonight. Anders, would you like to unmute and go?
Can you hear? It's very loud. Yeah, I don't know.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Anders, you want to just speak a little bit to make sure that everything's working?
Yeah. Test. Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure if it's going through or not.
It's a little broken up. Is that correct?
It's choppy.
Just a little bit choppy.
Is it going through?
Not yet. What's that?
We gotta move.
You could, yeah, try moving, and then you could always try disabling the video briefly to see if that changes it.
Is this any?
Oh.
Is this any better right here? Is this better?
We can hear you a little better, but we would sure like to see you. Try it one more time.
Can you guys hear me?
Can everybody hear Anders?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you get started, Anders?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better without the video?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So is it all right if I keep my video off for sake of being able to hear me?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
And
I'm going to share my screen. so that I can share my slideshow. Okay. Are you guys able to see screen right now? Hello? I'm unable to hear anyone.
You're good. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna try not to take too much of your time, as I understand you guys are busy. So thank you for this opportunity for me to present to you. I am planning on repainting the kickboard as a part of my senior project. And I already have permission from Miss Casey and Mr. Fabro, who maintains the horse show grounds in that area. And I wanted to run my ideas by you, get your opinion on some of the designs I've narrowed down to the finals, and overall get your permission to follow through with this project. So why have I done this? So as I said, this is a part of my senior project. This is only one of 3 things which I'm doing. The others are going to consist of some sort of military memorial plaque for our veterans, as well as coaching, which I've already completed this summer. But I also wanted to paint this because several teams go through there and play games, they practice, and that kickboard has stood there all while I was growing up, and all while most of everyone else under me was growing up, and a few above me is growing up. And we've all kind of connected to that kickboard. It's represented our team and our school, and it's a big reminder that we're all one big team. And at the end of the day, we should help each other out. So how am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to hand paint this, and to get the money, as paint is expensive, I'm going to apply for a CYC mini grant program to get enough money to pay for the tools along with the paint necessary to complete. So here's the portion where, seeing as the connection's weird on my end and your end, I'll show you the 4 designs which I've narrowed it down to, and I'll get your opinion on what I've finalized as my 4 opinions. So this first one is very simple. Well, I've experimented with and tested out several designs, and I found that simple is better. With too much going on, it almost takes away of the purpose of like getting a quick glimpse and the reminder that it's one big team. So simplicity is key. This first design here has the LPs in the corner. This is the best I could do with the computer programming I was using, but of course I was going to replace the simple LPs with the more 3-colored LPs that we have on most of our apparel. And then this is just one of the fonts I was thinking about using, a simple one, nice school one. My next design is very similar to the first one, but with a much bolder and stronger font for the Blue Bombers right in the center. It's strong, which helps represent what we are as a school and what our teams are, very strong and connected. This next one, I changed up the colors just a bit. I kept the yellow and the white as contrast colors to the blue, but I changed the blue to a darker hue, seeing as that's what's on our soccer uniforms, which is where the kickboard is. And this last one is a little bit different from all the rest. Instead of having the Blue Bombers right in the middle of it, I decided a little design. I know this isn't quite simple, but I also wanted to know what you guys thought of something different than Blue Bombers straight across. So yeah, thank you guys for the time, and give you an opportunity just to say your opinions. I'll write them down, and of course I'll take them into interest. And when I'm going to do this, I'm planning on, if the weather keeps up, I'm going to try to do it as soon as possible. Maybe I could get it in this year, but most likely it's going to happen in spring, seeing as winter is creeping upon us and the grant hasn't gotten back to me yet. So yeah.
Great job, Anders. I love the designs that you did. I especially like the one with the airplane in it. It's a little different.
Thank you.
Anders, I can see your artistic side coming out. For those of you who don't know, Anders doesn't just paint signs and walls, but he paints beautiful paintings. And I really see that with your comments on the colors. I'm a darker blue guy, whatever everybody else says.
I think matching the school uniform blue is probably a very good idea. I think you're spot on there. And simpler will probably also be better in both for the overall design and execution. You know, large format painting is very difficult. So I think that the simpler you go, the easier the actual job of accomplishing the painting becomes.
I also think that keeping it simple.
Thinking about
I also think that keeping with it simple is easier to maintain it in the future. So when it has to be repainted, the simpler design is much easier.
Unless, Anders, you want to give a lifetime guarantee to that painting and just continue to come back periodically and paint it.
That's a possibility.
I think they all look great, Anders. I'm a little more, I guess, like the first one or two where the blue was actually more of a blue. I think the other one had a little bit of a purplish tone. I know it matches your uniforms, but I'm probably more prone to want to go with the true blue color, but that's just me. But great job.
Anders, great job. I like the darker blue that matches all the uniforms, and keeping it simple with the just the blue bomber lettering is probably going to be a lot easier for you and in the future to maintain.
Thank you, Mr. Marvin.
Anders, I'd agree with that. I sort of like the I don't know how to describe it, the lettering that had the lines down through it, but I'm wondering how that would look from a great distance. It might break things up a little. So going, again, keeping it simple, and I do like the darker blue as well. So that's my input. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
With our feedback, maybe that in the end, that Anders could decide how to go from there. Is that sort of what you were thinking? How does that sound to you, Anders? You heard some of the feedback, and you said you were taking some notes. Obviously, you can't do everything that everybody wants, but it provides you with some feedback.
It definitely does. All your opinions certainly help, and be sure to share the final with Zendelopolis, and she can send out the information to all of you, and I'll be happy to be proud to complete this project. And finish it off. So thank you.
Thank you, Anders.
Thank you.
You can stay on if you'd like.
Okay.
That didn't take as long.
Yeah.
All right. May I do special ed now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Colleen and Joan, can you hear me? Okay. All
I
right.
can, Sarah,
I'm
thank
going to share my screen, and hopefully it will also project up here. Let's see. So I think everyone should be able to see it on your screens as well as up here if you would like. Okay. All right. So thank you for letting me come tonight and present to you. I do this usually around this time each year, and I just appreciate you giving me the time to present on special education. And if you have any questions as we go through, feel free to ask. So this will just give you a brief overview of special education. So this first slide represents our overall population in Lake Placid School District. And you can see that it's broken down by general education students, and then students with disabilities, and then students with 504 plans. So 76% of our overall student population are students that are just right within the general education setting. 17% are students with disabilities, which means they have an IEP plan. And 7% are students with a 504 plan. So a Section 504 plan is it's a federal plan, and so it's usually for students that have a disability. But when you look at an IEP or the students with disabilities, there's only 13 categories to choose from, and sometimes there's students that have something else that maybe doesn't fit into one of those categories, but they may still need some supports. And usually 504 plans do not have services where they're getting pulled out of class at all, but they may have services like a guided study hall or some support in the classroom. So the services are a little different. It's more of an accommodation plan with a 504 and less of a service plan. You're welcome. So this next slide represents our instructional staff here, K through 12. You can see that overall they're the trend is really, there's not much of a change there in that trend over the last 4 years. You will see last year, the teaching assistants were at 19%, and this year they're at 17%. We did have a teaching assistant retire, and we knew they were going to retire early on in the year. So we had hired someone to maintain consistency for the full year. So that has contributed to that change some there. But overall, it's stayed consistent with our staffing. When I look at, so general education staff is the teachers that are teaching English, teaching science, teaching 3rd grade, teaching 4th grade. Then you look at special education teachers, they may be teaching special classes, they may be in consulting in classrooms. Special education teaching assistants, some of these teaching assistants are one-to-one teaching assistants, so they're working with one specific student. Some of these teaching assistants help support a group of students. And then when I look at related service providers, what you're looking at there is you're looking at occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech language pathologists, the school psychologists are included in there as well. And then CSE chairperson. This shows our overall IEP and 504 placements by grade. The majority of our students are at the middle high school. There are 25% of our students are at the elementary. We do have 11% of our students in the district at the preschool level. So the way that the committee works is there's a preschool committee on special education as well. So we, as a district, oversee that committee, and that's where that 11% comes from. And then 3% are ungraded. And so ungraded students are students that have significant disabilities and will have a different track in some ways. So they won't take the 3 through 8 assessments and they won't take the Regents exams, but they will work towards a credential and a certificate at the end when they leave our building. And that's why that number is so small, because you really do want that number to only be for the most significant students with the most significant needs. So this, I know that you get paperwork usually each meeting from me, and sometimes you may see some of this information on the paperwork that you receive. So this is just an overall slide of the different services that we offer here in Lake Placid. So most of our students, and you'll see on the next slide, I think coming up, most of our students receive what is called consultant teacher services. This is when a special education teacher pushes in to a classroom and helps students with an IEP. And they usually, there's a few students in that classroom that special education teacher is working with. And the benefit to this is that the students are right in there with their peers. So everyone is still working together. The special education teacher will help anyone in the classroom with a focus on the students that have the plans in the classroom. Resource room is a service that's outside of the general education setting for the most part. It could be in, but a lot of times we have that outside, and that's more targeted instruction in an area that the student may have a weakness. They're getting specialized supplementary instruction in that area. Related services I talked a little bit about before, that's that counseling, speech, PT, and OT. Integrated co-teaching services. This is a step where the teachers, the general education teacher and the special education teacher plan together and prep together and then teach the class together. So it's a little different than consultant. This service is for students that may need a little more support than a student that has the consultant teacher service. So this service is still right within the general education setting. And these classrooms have to have at least a 50-50 mix of students, so that 50% of the students could have an IEP, and then 50% of the students would have to be general education students for it to be considered an integrated co-teaching service. And then as you go down, the next services you see are special classes. So some students just need more support than what can happen in a general education setting. And when they need that, there are what we call special classes, and these are all ratios. So 15-to-1 means 15 students could be in that classroom with one special education teacher. 12-to-1 is 12 students with one special education teacher. If students have more significant needs or possibly some more management needs, you start to increase the support levels. So when you see the 12-to-1, that means could be 12 students. There's one teacher, and then there's one teaching assistant within that classroom. And that's why as it goes down, you have the 8-to-1, and then you have the 6-to-1, and that ratio stays the same. And then that very last one is for students that have multiple disabilities. And we do have a 12-to-1 to 3-to-1 classroom at the elementary school right now, where there's a mix of students that have multiple disabilities. So their services, they have quite a few services. And so what that means is that in that classroom, you could have up to 12 students, one teacher, but for every 3 students in addition, you have to have one more support person. So that ratio has to stay the same. Lots of times in our district, just by the nature of the district, those students have a 1-to-1, so that ratio maintains and is actually a little higher than what the 12-to-1, 3-to-1 shows there. So that is the overall kind of services that we offer here in Lake Placid, which for being a small district, it's a good range of services for our students here. And then I did say the next slide would show, so you can see that this shows those services, but it shows the numbers of students that are receiving those types of service. So consultant teacher is still the most recommended service because you are keeping students in the least restrictive setting. They're getting the most that they can being in that general education setting. And then resource room is at close. A lot of times you'll have a consultant teacher service recommended in conjunction with the resource room service, because then you can have that small group where they get additional instruction. And those services continue down. You see that we do try. I think if I go to the next slide, this one actually is going to break down student disability classifications. So Martha, when you asked that question, I said there's 13 disability classifications. These are those classifications. You'll see the majority of our students have a classification if they have an IEP of a learning disability. There is also OHI, stands for other health impairment. What you see under this service is sometimes students that have ADHD or some other types of impairments that fall under this. Could be just a variety of needs. So you'll see there's a slight jump in that. It just by chance, we did have some new students enter our district this year, and it seemed like many of those students ended up having a classification of other health impairment. So it kind of, our numbers jumped slightly there, nothing too alarming. But these are the range of the different types of disabilities. This one, when I was talking about having students in the classroom, this shows where we are with least restrictive environment. I think it's something that we really try as a district to pride ourselves on, because we want students to be with their peers as much as possible and to be learning together in conjunction, because we truly believe that when they can see all of those other perspectives, it helps to raise their learning and what they are learning as well. And so you can see that we are still, you know, the majority of our students are in the general education setting, 80% or more in their day. And then there is a small group that has that 40 to 79%. They might be a student that has a special class that I talked about earlier. And then the less than 40% of our day are only our really significantly high needs students that would be not in the classroom more than 40% of their day. So each year, New York State updates their dashboard and their data and their information, but they're always a year behind. So this slide, it's hard to see at the top, but this is actually 2018, 2019 information. And it compares our district to some other districts in the area. And you can see that when we look at students being in the regular education setting, we're leading the way and when we compare ourselves to other districts in the area, which is, that's, I think, a very good thing for our district. It means that we're trying really hard to keep our students in with their peers as much as possible. So then this last slide, when we look at this slide, it's diploma and credential recipients. So of the students that completed the school year last year, 71% of them were general education students, 24% were students with disabilities, and 4% were students with 504 plans. And so these students left with a diploma or a credential or possibly both. And so, you know, we try really hard to make sure that every student has every opportunity to leave with a diploma. If that just cannot happen, then we try to make sure they're at least leaving with a credential that can help them later on. And so we're really, you know, we're happy that we have such success with our students. They look forward to their next steps. This slide is about students that are placed in non-public elementary and secondary schools. So any students that are placed in our non-public schools that are within our district. So when you think about that, you can think about Northwood or St. Agnes or North Country School. We oversee, the committee oversees those students' plans if they have an IESP. An IESP is very similar to an IEP, except it's for students that are placed in non-public schools. So we do I meet with the non-public schools. We have annual review meetings for these students. We do have to do reevaluations for these students. And so that is part of what we do. Right now we have 4 students, so it's not a large amount of students, but we do have 4 that are at various locations. And we do consult. So I've talked with each of the schools on whether those students want to access services, and we talk about where those services will be accessed. So sometimes our related service providers go to those schools. Sometimes students have come to school here if we can't provide the service at their school. And then students at home. So this year is a pretty unique year. I think everyone knows that. So we have 2 students that are fully homeschooled that fall under the Committee on Special Education. And so these students, it's very similar to if they were privately placed. We'll have an annual review. We'll talk about their plans. They'll still have updated they will have updated reevaluations if they need that, and testing. They also have the ability to, we have some of them that are remoting in for services. So they are remoting in to receive their services. And so we are providing services that way for them. And we'll continue to do that through this. So. And then this part, the Board of Ed actually determines if a student is homeschooled where those services will take place. It could be a site here right at school. It could be a site off of school. And remote, the parents have asked for remote. So. I'm gonna stop sharing so that I can maybe see Joan and Colleen as well. Okay. Does anybody have, I think I can unplug this too, right? Do you have any questions for me? Anyone have any questions?
Thanks so much, Sarah. It was very informative.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Mhm.
About 4 slides ago, you had there was a bar chart of Lake Placid with other schools.
Yeah.
And there was one category that was orange, and I
Yeah.
forget what it was called. So like, what does that encompass? We don't have any
Mhm.
in
That's
that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that is, some schools have students in separate settings. So part of my thank you is to the whole board. Thank you for supporting special ed within this district. We do have a wide range of services that we offer right here in our district. So we're not currently sending any students to other schools or to other BOCES outside of our school district. We house all our students right here. Not all schools can do that. And there are sometimes just students that need something different than what we could give them here. And so some of those schools, that's that orange bar. It's students that are in a separate setting.
I think it's really important that you mention that, because that puts us at a special level. And I think it's great. You know, when I was in college, I went to England and they had this whole thing, because I was a special ed major. It's funny that I ended up in early childhood, but yeah, so that's a really special thing that Lake Placid offers, and I think we should really let people know that, because it's a great asset.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
Thank you.
We try really hard to keep our students here in the community, that they will probably, after they leave school, still be embedded within this community. So we want their peers to know them. We want people in the community to know them.
And they're more comfortable here, so they do better.
Mhm.
So that's a big thing.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sarah? Oops. 12 to 1, 8 to 1, 6 to 1, whatever the issue is. We all know that those aren't, there aren't 12 people,
No.
students in those. How often are those? Do they get full?
We have not had them get full.
Okay.
No, we're usually looking at, the max might be 5. I think that's 12 to 1 at the elementary school has 5 right now. And that's actually pretty big for us. You know, some of them only have 3. So it's a good, yeah, it's a
But
small
because
ratio.
it's a classification, that's how they're classified.
Yes, it's because of what their needs, not necessarily their classification, but because of what their needs are. Oh, and then I have to say it that way. I have to say that it's a 15-to-1, even if it's a 3-to-1. Something.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Sarah, I actually had a question for you. There's a lot of graphs and a lot of information there. If you had to characterize our program in any way based on what you just showed everybody, do you have any sort of like takeaways for us?
I mean, I think we should be proud as a district that we have all of our students here in-house, which Joan pointed out as well. I also think we should be proud that we have most of our students in the general education setting. The state really looks heavily at that as well. So when I look at those charts, I see, the report cards, and I'm looking at all that, and we're always exceeding in that area, which is a really good area to exceed in, because we're giving students an opportunity to learn from their peers, as well as to learn from their teachers and to learn from the teaching assistants and whoever else is working with them. So I think that that's really important. And I think that we have a really good staff that works together. That takes general education teachers and special education teachers and teaching assistants and related service providers all being willing to work together to make that happen for students. And I think that the staff does that and wants that. They want to work together to make that happen.
And if you'll indulge me a comment. So the things that you pointed out to us, and you just mentioned, right, the placement in district, the high inclusion rate, the high graduation and completion rate for students with disabilities. I guess I just want everybody to know that what you're looking at is it's not normal. Well, it's normal, but it's not common. These are really hard achievements to make, I think. And I guess my comment is that it doesn't come easy. It's a choice that we make, but really you make, and that's leadership. And I just think that a lot of those accomplishments are really thanks to all of the hard work and the dedication you have to the program.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I would also say, though, it also takes support. It takes all of the support of the board. It takes all of us being in it together to make that program be successful and grow. So thank you for everything you do and for volunteering your time and serving on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Any other comments?
Just on state funding, how much are we relying on state funding versus federal funding for special education?
There's some interesting points.
So I would actually Dana and I work closely together. So I'm going to ask him, because I don't actually do a lot of the budgeting number pieces, but Dana and I work together. We make sure that all of that is accounted for, and we do get some federal funding, and then we get some New York State funding.
Medicaid funding that
And
we see the revenue report that comes from the provided services
Mhm.
and PTOT they put in for that. In fact, we just kind of finalized those numbers
Mhm.
for 18-19
Mhm.
for Medicaid. We also have IDA,
Yeah,
the special ed money as well. That's when you look at it, that's mechanism to our appropriations through the F funds. And we get in total from that a little over $600,000, but that is, IDA, that's pre-K, that's title funds,
Mhm.
and that's all of our state and federal.
I guess I'm getting at is, do we anticipate any, we're gonna have to, so we have such a strong program,
Mhm.
are we gonna have to make any cuts? Potentially, we don't know.
No, the federal money, the title money, the
But yeah,
IDA is
it comes
pretty consistent.
Mhm.
Right, that's, that's not where cuts.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and I think when we look at like New York State, and we call them stacks. We do these stacks through New York State, and they actually do take into account, even though I have to write the IEP as a 15-to-1, when I take into account, they actually will ask what the actual class size is. So I do have the opportunity on those to put, okay, it's only a 3-to-1. So they do take into account that we have that smaller ratio when they do those pieces. So that I think is that's good because when they look at the funding, they actually are looking at the smaller ratio.
One thing we've seen with that is our threshold has gone. What is it now, about
52,000, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's 52,000.
So basically, if we have a program that's cost us under 50,000, we don't get any reimbursement for it. So
Yeah.
that has changed.
Yeah, we do have one of the higher thresholds, and they calculate that based on area and. So,
Thanks.
thanks.
Remind you guys when you're speaking to unmute, they can't hear us.
Anyone else? Sarah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, Joan. Bye, Colleen.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye.
It's hard to remember.
It is hard to remember.
Gets me all the time.
So the work group on diversity, equity, and inclusion has had 2 meetings, and there are 4 stages of groups operating. It's just a model to follow, but it's forming, storming, norming, and performing. And so from my point of view, this last meeting we had was forming. Every single person in the room got to express their feelings about the issues and their hopes about the issue as well. And we recorded that in the minutes, which you have. So the next meeting, I think, will be more of a shaping what we're going to do. I'm trying not to lead as much as facilitate other people's talking. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Great. Any
Thanks,
questions?
Martha.
There's a slideshow under the public content, and then there's several items under the executive content regarding these meetings. So any questions, comments?
Thanks, Martha, and the group for all of your hard work.
We'll move on. Thank you. Thank you, Martha. Thank you.
Everybody's muted, so we can't hear anything.
We can't hear anything.
We feel like they're part of the family here in Lake Placid. And in many ways, that's exactly how they've treated us. They've been looking out for the best interests of our school district. They have been looking out for the best in the best interest of our facilities. We go to them, and then they shape the construction project in a way that works for us. So really grateful to have this crew. I'll let them all introduce themselves, but have this crew here with us tonight to be able to share with us the close to completion capital project. So
So we'll start with Paul. Paul, you're gonna introduce everybody, right?
Yeah, I will. I'm Paul Lemoy. I'm the project manager. You guys have all seen me before. I came up and talked to you about the stone wall, and we've actually shared a couple of times. We think you made a great decision. Your wall looks really awesome. I mean, it's a showpiece in the community now. So we're pretty proud of that. What I'll tell you is, I come to school board meetings when there's good news to be delivered. So if you see just my boss here, that's probably not such a good day. So I'm here when there's good news. The owner of the company and the president, Eric Robert, and Connor Fitzgerald, he's kind of taken on, we've needed a second person to oversee some of the nighttime work that's been taking place to try and get this thing wrapped up. So Connor's actually a second person here. We've had Chris Burnett here during the daytime, and Connor's been here working second shift to try and get us through the last little bit of roofing and balancing and those kind of things. So we'll take you through. I put this together. I was actually up here Saturday, so I took an awful lot of the pictures that are in this on Saturday, and I'll turn it over to my boss to get us started here.
When I first came into the room here and a couple board members were here, we spoke a little bit about the wise decision with the retaining wall and the natural stone look that just looks wonderful, looks amazing. The other compliment that I'd like to give the board is on the auditorium. I just spent a couple minutes over in the auditorium with Paul and Connor, and seeing the latest and greatest status, and it is absolutely beautiful in there. It is going to be a really nice space when it's all finished. It was a very wise decision while we had the seating out of there and everything to deal with that old ceiling. And if you recall, that was an old asbestos ceiling, so that's something that would have haunted the district at some later point down the road. So we had the funding, and I commend you on that decision. So just to talk briefly about the COVID-19 protocol, and it's nice to see Lake Placid's commitment to in-person education. On a personal note, I'm a former educator, and I'm a firm believer in in-person education, and certainly the district here has had a true commitment in that regard. Part of that also falls on us with the construction workers, and we've had a decent, respectable level of dedication from them, also with compliance as far as face masks, distancing when we can, and so forth. And we've had a number of occasions where we have had workers that haven't felt well, and they've stayed home. So we've gotten a phone call in the morning instead of seeing George show up at work and say, geez, I'm not feeling well. So it's been good. I'm gonna knock on wood. We have a little ways to go. But people get it, and people respect what you're doing. The construction workers respect what you're doing here, and they respect being on your project. So we've had good success there on that front. Next one.
Sure. So just taking you through where we're at in each of the buildings at the Lake Placid, here at the middle high school, general construction is about 95% done. That remaining 5% is mostly the auditorium. There are a few minor little punch list items here and there around through the building. The mechanical contractor is working to balance and make sure that all your controls are operating the way they should be. We're trying to get a handle on when they'll finish up, but we're anticipating it's going to be in the near future. We've been pushing them hard to get completed by the end of the month. The electrical contractor, I'm going to say, is about 90% completed. He's the guy that, and being a former electrician, it always seems like you get dumped on at the very end where sheetrock's all up, everybody's painted, and now I got to put all my stuff in and get done. So while it looks like he's a little bit behind, it's because he's kind of the finishing guy to get everything working, tested. The sound system in the auditorium is going in. It's actually going to be tested, I believe, on Monday. Site contractor, that one's easy to see. You saw the new pavement as you come into the entranceway was put down today. There's a little bit of fencing to go along the oval, and he expects to be completed probably by the end of the week, and then loading up all of his trucks and getting all of his material and stuff that's on site and getting it back down to the yard. The roofing contractor is nearly complete. We are scheduled next week to do a warranty walkthrough with Firestone, and we've got a couple of manufacturer representatives that are going to come up and walk the warranty. We have been in contact with somebody from Firestone. We do believe that there are a couple of issues that are going to require coming back and redoing a section of the roof next year. Some of it just wasn't up to Firestone standard, and they're not going to allow it to stay. They're gonna insist that that section gets replaced. Eric, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I might add to that, the roofing contractor has kind of been the wild card on this project. We've had a fairly good level of participation and cooperation from all the contractors. The roofing contractor, though, we've had some difficulties with. As the group knows here, we've had roof leaks that they've caused due to negligence that we've overcome. It's about a 4-month period going through repair work and so forth, and working with the district's insurance providers and attorneys and so forth. But we're now at a point where they're nearly substantially complete. As we ran into difficulties earlier on with the roofing contractor, we asked the manufacturer to come on site earlier. Usually at the end of a roofing installation, the manufacturer comes on at the tail end. They do a final inspection, which is the warranty inspection. And so when they were here late summertime, we had pointed out some areas that we had concerns with, and they had confirmed that they did share some of our concerns. So they're coming back out on Thursday now that we're nearly complete. Connor's been a big help. We've taken the plans for the roof, and we've highlighted all of our areas that we've noticed, and we're gonna walk all these areas with 2 representatives from Firestone, and in some cases we believe that there may be some rework that is due. The weather conditions right now are not conducive to that type of work, and it will most likely be activities that would be taking place sometime in the spring or sometime in the summer. And I often say this to our clients, there's times when we wish we could take a hammer out of a carpenter's hand or a trowel out of the mason and do things ourselves. Public bidding laws, Wick's law that we have here, we can't do that. We can document our concerns, we can mandate that work be redone, and that's essentially where we're at with it. So.
Auditorium, I've estimated we're about 85% complete. The seats are going in. I've got a picture to show you a little bit here. The seats are scheduled to go in next Wednesday. Probably take about a week, so maybe right before Thanksgiving, the seating will be in, and that area will be very, very close to being finished. And then there's punch list items in every single building, and again, little by little, we're trying to address those. The electrician has some open items somewhere, and we basically said to him, get me out of the auditorium so I can get the seats put in. I know you got some other stuff to do, but get me out of the auditorium so that everybody else can finish up their work and go home. And then he'll have some other punch list items. These are some pictures here at the high school. Again, these were taken Saturday morning. The retaining wall, which just amazed me. The sidewalk pavers, I just think as you're walking down, I always, when I umpire baseball, when I go to your varsity baseball field, I think about how lucky kids are in this area to play with the Olympic torch and the backdrop and the mountains and whatever. And every time I stand behind home plate, I'm like, wow, what a great place to play baseball. And this is another area that's just a great place to be able to come to this campus and show this off to your community. I'm really happy with the work that's turned out here. Luck Brothers did a really, really good job. This is the sign we talked about. I will tell you that if anybody asks how much it costs, tell them you didn't buy it by the pound. It weighs about 9,700 pounds, so nobody's going to run off with it unless they come with a pretty big crane. They took 2 machines to get it off the truck. So that will be in the very near future. There's some posts. I tried hard to hide the 2 sonotubes that are sticking up in front of it right now. Those are actually designed to be lights to light it up from both sides, so it'll be illuminated at night for it. The new pavement, and I was really going to change the slide out this morning when the pavement was finished up into the entranceway. I wound up with another project meeting, and I decided I wanted to make sure this wound up in Karen's hands, so I didn't change it. But new pavement all the way down through. Again, I just think it really dressed up the whole look. The stairs, I didn't note that, but the stairs have all been redone coming down by the district office. along with the handrail and the paving. This is the other set of stairs that lead not down the front of the building, but off to the side and out to that sidewalk. And this set of stairs was in pretty rough shape and certainly needed a facelift. And they have bought you quite a bit of time with the facelift that they have done. If you've gone up and walked at that, I mean, when I first walked out there, I actually said, are these brand new stairs? I didn't think we called for new stairs. I mean, they look to be in that condition. They look like they're brand new. New railings on them. So your pedestrian bridge, that was where we started last fall. And then the entranceway at night, I don't know, most of you maybe came in that way, but lit up at night, it's a really nice entranceway. It looks really sharp lit up. So that is just about finished. We got a little bit of touch up. I think you can see on the left column there, we've got a little bit of cleanup to do on some of the stonework, but some pretty minor things that are making a list to get taken care of there. This is inside that same entranceway, your new secured entrance, so people have to get buzzed into that door, and then you've effectively locked them into that entranceway until you actually buzz them all the way into the building. So you kind of get I always said, as a director of facilities, I get 2 chances to make sure somebody doesn't get into my building that doesn't belong. They don't have to get just lucky one time by somebody walking out and they walk in behind them. They got to get lucky twice to get into your building. And that's what this new secure entrance has done for you. I didn't put a slide in here, but I'll just tell you, your elevator, we wound up with an issue with the jack. The jack was leaking. The elevator wouldn't pass inspection. We had to get a new jack. That raceway where the jack goes is actually being filled with water tomorrow. And then they bring in a giant vacuum truck and they suck all the water back out. And by sucking all the water out, they suck any debris that's left in that pit back out with the water. That's happening tomorrow. And the jack is supposed to arrive. We're hoping in the next few weeks to be able to get that elevator back in service for you. So that's been a tricky one to navigate around, but we did wound up getting a quote from the elevator company who was doing the inspection, and we saved, I forget now, Dana, do you remember what the number was, how much by going to McGee?
Close to 20,000.
Yeah, so we went and found another contractor, didn't like the price. We went and found somebody new for you and saved you about $20,000 by hiring another contractor out of Albany to come do that work. This is the auditorium. This is the showpiece. I tried to pan up a little bit, if you will, because there was a whole lot of stuff on the floor still. But as of tonight, the flooring is going down. So some of the carpet in the front of the doors is down, and the tile guy was starting to install some of the VCT tiles. So if I'd waited and taken this today, it would be a much different picture, and you'd be able to see that. But you can see the walls and the colors. The blue is going away, which I think by making this lighter colors and doing the gold accents, the blue in your seats and the blue in your main curtains is really going to be highlighted out then. And I think you almost maybe had too much blue before, where now the Lake Placid blue is really going to show up in that seating. So and the seating is scheduled to start getting installed next Wednesday. So this week, in another week, will look a lot different than it does now. There is some of the stuff, the gold arches that were installed. There were a couple of those panels that were missing those arches on the other side of the room. We went and had those arches custom made to match the arches on the other side, because it kind of looked kind of strange that down every bay you had those beautiful golden arches, and then 2 bays they were missing. So we kind of looked at it. Roger went out and looked at it, and we just said, oh, you know what, we're doing this, we want to just do it one time. So the ceiling, I mean, the sheetrock coffers that they've built, and then the drop ceilings up inside there. I was lucky enough years ago to redo the Giltz Auditorium at Plattsburgh State University. And you have as nice an auditorium. It's not as big as the Giltz Auditorium, but you have as nice an auditorium as they have at the Giltz Theater now. So and they, back then they had everything state of the art. You've got a state of the art sound system. You've got really new lighting, and you've really got the ability to do stuff now because you've got rid of the asbestos above that main ceiling. So you've opened it up to be able to do stuff in the future. These are under balcony speakers. I don't think I showed. Yeah, that one. There's speakers mounted to the front of the auditorium, and then these speakers are all underneath the balcony, mounted down below, so that so anybody under there can hear. what's going on. This is the new entranceway that leads you into the auditorium, so people can access, park their car, and just walk right into the auditorium as opposed to coming all the way through the school and getting into the space. And this, I went and took this because I know most board members don't make it down to the boiler room. Your mechanical guy did a really good job putting in brand new boilers and really redoing all of the boiler piping in that boiler room. I mean, this is all brand new. This is probably one of the cleanest boiler rooms that I've probably been in and seen. Some of it because it's brand new. And it seems to over time become a collection point because it's a place to hide stuff and put it out of everybody's view. But I just wanted you to be able to see, because again, not a lot of people make it down there, but they did some really nice work. You have 2 brand new state-of-the-art boilers here. The fuel tank outside was redone. You've converted from steam heat, which is much less efficient than hot water heat, and you've converted over to the hot water heat. So that all happened by replacing.
It'll be interesting to see your fuel savings. And, you know,
Yeah.
of course, if we have weather like this, it'll be a significant impact. But over time, I think you're going to see a trend of much better efficiency with these boilers, and of course, your overall new heating system here in the building.
Bobby has already commented.
Has he?
Yeah. That the weekend meeting, the heat was on and stuff like that, and he monitors it, and he says already have seen, you know, that we're using far less.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Good. Yep.
He kept throwing out a number about 40%.
Wow.
Excellent.
Wow.
That's pretty good. This is the new roofing, and again, we do have some areas. I actually show here one of the areas that has a little bit of our concern. If you can see the puddling behind those rooftop units right there at the very bottom left of the screen, that is some of our concern, that water stays there far too long. As everybody knows, it was 60 degrees out and pretty sunny on Saturday, and that's a concern of ours, that water is puddling and ponding there and staying for a long time. So we brought that to Firestone. We said, you know, something needs to happen. It certainly doesn't pitch to the roof drains that you can see right beside each of those units. That water should flow into the air and should be off that roof. So that is one of the concerns. I tried to make sure that I highlighted that a little bit. As part of the water damage, you wound up with the second floor, the first floor, second floor, third floor in I'm not sure, in the west wing. You wound up with mostly on the second floor and third floor, you wound up with new sheetrock walls. You wound up with all brand new flooring. You wound up with all brand new ceiling tile on the second and third floor. You wound up with brand new lighting. All of that based on the insurance claim, because all of that was deemed to be not salvageable. The light fixtures were full of water. The sheetrock, we came and did a mold assessment, and the sheetrock, the mold assessment failed because of the sheetrock that was on the walls, and we had to start taking some of that out. The tile was starting to lift up, and so this is what they look like now. So moving over to the elementary school, construction work is nearly completed again over there. Roofer is done, the GC is done, the electrician is, I think pretty much all contractors have punch list stuff, items to do. Really not an awful lot left there. They kind of finished up and got through that. So we're just monitoring what they have left to do on the punch list. And again, we're trying to get that done on a second shift or a day like tomorrow where there's no school. We encourage them to get over there and take care of some of those items. At the elementary school, this I think is the grand marquee to your elementary school, and just such a gorgeous entrance way to that school, and really gives you the Adirondack theme. And I worked really hard to not show these two panels right there and right there. Those two panels are filled in with plywood right now because the two pieces of glass got damaged in shipment, and they're on order. They've been on order for a little bit. I did find out in the job meeting today that we should be receiving them hopefully next week, and that'll put the finishing touch for that and complete that area. The Lake Placid sign. I think that it's a really nice looking sign. Again, the stonework looks great on that. Your secured entranceway inside into the lobby. Again, those, you know, everybody has to get lucky twice to get into your building now. You have a new secure sign-in window. They actually, so that this is actually, maybe it doesn't look like it, but it's actually bulletproof glass in that window. There is actually a fire shutter on the other side of that window. So if the fire alarm goes off on either side of that, there's a shutter that comes down and closes off that area and closes off the entranceway. They do have, I think, a button, but I think it's up above the ceiling to actually operate the shutter, because it's really not supposed to go up and down, but it would activate in the fire. So those panes of glass are actually incredibly heavy. You wouldn't realize how heavy they are, but they slide really easy. I'm pretty surprised. Your new main office renovations. This was again pretty much one of the showpieces of the elementary school, the welcoming thing to parents as they come in and stuff. And this space looks really nice. Well done. Bathrooms. The bathroom renovation again. That has happened a while ago now. I think we turned that over to you back in that last fall. The bathrooms. So these bathrooms are a year old now and still look like they're brand new. So the loading dock was upgraded, new pavement, new bumper rail. We fixed all the concrete that was failing. We fixed the concrete steps. We replaced all 4 of the columns that were rotting away due to some of the salt and water ponding on top of your loading dock. So that's all been redone for you. It's the new louver and brickwork along beside the loading dock was all redone. And then we move over to your track. And the track is complete. We did resurfacing, restriping. We paved your end zones, put a new long jump and triple jump pit in, and we upgraded the stormwater drainage around the track. So there is your new track. Again, that was Sunday. It was a great sunny day. We all take that picture. You just have a gorgeous track now. And again, I can't tell you how nice it is in that facility to be able to be out there. So your new end zones with now 2 jump pits for triple jump and long jump. You have 2 of those, one going each direction down that end zone. And there's another picture looking the other direction. Love the fact the ski jumps are in the background. And then our project outlook. Eric, do you want to run through this?
Sure. So the auditorium, we're looking at being substantially complete by the end of this month, as Paul mentioned. There may be a couple little things here or there, but for the most part, it should be complete at the end of the month here. The elevator renovations, Paul spoke a little bit about the elevators. Both locations, we end up having to add some pits to them, additional ventilation, some better maintenance lights in the space, so when technicians come, it's a safe work area. We've completed all of the elevator upgrades at the elementary school. That was turned over about a month ago, and now we're just wrapping up at the high school with the jack that Paul had mentioned. The fin tube heating enclosures. So this is just an area of smaller item of work that's remaining. The various classrooms in this building all have metal covers that go over those radiators. There's some that we're still waiting on. Probably, would you say 4 to a half dozen or so at this point, Connor? And they should be here before the end of the month. Yeah. So, and same thing is over at the elementary school with those enclosures, and then we have miscellaneous punch list items. As Paul mentioned, we're actually at this point, and partially due to COVID, we're running 2 work shifts. We have been for about the past 3 or 4 weeks. Chris Burnett, who's not here with us this evening, is our primary construction manager. He's been here since early on in the project, and he's manning the day shifts. We've brought Connor up from downstate to help out with the night shift to get people into the building, get their punch list completed. Overall, when we think about project closeout and closing out contracts, it's quite an extensive process. We need to get as-built drawings from the contractors, all the punch list items that are listed there. We need to receive O&M manuals for all the equipment to hand over to your facilities staff. So there's a number of legal documents that have to be completed by the contractors to close out their insurance, their bonds, their payments, and so forth. And this is the part of the project that at times takes the most amount of effort to complete the least amount. And we've been taking it very seriously. Last Thursday, actually, Paul conducted individual Zoom sessions with each one of the contractors and really harping, hey, these are all the items we need to get in from you to get your contracts closed out. Again, as I spoke earlier, overall, we're in pretty good shape. The one area of concern that we do have is with that roofing contractor. We had a conversation, a conference call actually with Roger and Dana just the other day, talking about closeout. I know, Dana, if you don't mind, I'll expand on that a little bit. Dana's been in touch with the district's financial advisor. Kelly Gasbury, who's your architect of record, has been in touch with SED, and there's an application process for what they call early aid, where you can have a problem contractor that you might be settling things with, that you're still allowed to close out your project for aid purposes, if you will, as you deal with this one problem and work things out with that contractor. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that with Elmer Davis at all, or.
No more than we've already added.
Okay, very good. we're getting through it. We are. Their installations are complete, and we're being sticklers. I mean, there might be some work to redo, as I mentioned, but at the end of the day, Lake Placid Central Schools is going to receive what you bought from this contractor.
So the last slide is really just a thank you for allowing us to deliver this project for you and get this turned over to you, and we're working our way. As I tell you, the tough part about our business is we're working ourselves out of business in this particular town. But we certainly appreciate you choosing us as your project management team, and we're certainly hopeful that you're happy with what we've delivered for you. So, if anybody has any questions?
Got a roofing question.
Sure.
If Firestone comes in, correct, Firestone?
Yes, the manufacturer.
Right. Is the first option to have the current roofing company do the repairs? Is that a?
Yes, so
Okay.
they would require that installing company to do the repairs.
Okay.
If for some reason, and this is not the case here, but let's say, that particular installer went out of business or was not receptive to redoing the work. At the end of the day, the manufacturer would the intent would be either they would step in and get another contractor here, or the district holds what's known as a payment and a performance bond. And the bonding company that the district holds would bring in another contractor to finish that work.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. We also have, I'll add, which hopefully we want to inform you, but we don't want to raise alert because we do feel we're in a good position with this. We're holding a significant amount of money, approximately 2.5 times what a potential cost could be to overcome issues.
And I guess the last thing I would say is that we did deliver this. I mean, you were very fortunate on bid day to have this project bid well under budget, and I think we're completing this project with all of the additions that we've done with the auditorium, roofing, and all of those added things that we've added into this project. We're still well underneath the amount of money that was put towards this project to get it completed. So I think financially you're in a really good spot.
Good.
So Eric, Paul, Connor, add in there, Chris, who's been here every day for many, many months, Brad, who spent a lot of time here. We are very glad that when we were looking for construction management companies, that you knocked on our door. Matter of fact, I seem to remember you knocked on my door a few times. It made me a little skeptical at first. I got over that.
I'm trying to think of your prior business manager. So
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
it was a good thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Appreciate all you've done.
Thank you.
I want to say that the best thing I've heard you say today is these words: project close out. The fact that we are here, it just does seem like a minor miracle.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank you. Again, a double-edged sword because we're out of this business and moving on to it. If we got money, we're happy to do that, so.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you
night.
very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks again for having us.
Thank you.
Here's your chance, Sarah.
Yes. Take care.
Catch the current.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We owe you one, I think.
Okay.
I'm not gonna mess with you anymore. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to break down crying if you do this.
We were really moving forward with the project without construction manager, without a construction manager.
There are other ways to go.
Can't remember now. I was there for that vote.
You can do a clerk of the works. You can do it yourself in-house. Good thing we didn't.
Yeah.
Worth the investment.
Definitely.
Dr. Catania, you are up with your superintendent's
It's
report.
my turn. Okay, well, I'll be really fast because you know how quick I am. I have to unmute
Yeah.
and I turn my speaker up No.
Good job.
like that. Are we good? Is everybody here? Yes? Okay. So I just want to talk about two things, and I know you haven't heard enough about COVID lately, so I'll share a little bit about that, and then just give you an update on the schools, where we are, and looking ahead. So first, the COVID update. I did share with the board, with the faculty and the staff and the community yesterday, that all of the schools in Franklin County have made the decision to make a shift to remote instruction. And yet here in Lake Placid, we are going to remain in our present in-person instruction mode. The immediate reason for this is public health information, right? You know, while we recognize there's an increase in cases widespread, nationwide, statewide, and in Northern Franklin County, where that decision was being made from, so far, we feel like our own cases are within reason for us to continue in our in-person mode. So we pay attention to that on a regular basis. And so right now, for the at the present, we're continuing in person. A couple of things I just wanted to mention. One is that, you know, we tend to, sometimes we forget this as we move on, but we actually created a reopening plan. You remember, a series of plans, and we had a series of information sessions. Our reopening plan continues to provide us additional options should we choose to use them, and if we're able to use them. And of course, those are two possibilities, depending on who makes decisions, whether it's coming from the executive statewide, or whether we're able to make decisions ourselves. And so we do have some options. We don't have to go either full in person or remote. We do have a hybrid option. We do have a phase 2 option, which allows us to bring in some students who may need that extra support so they don't slip through the cracks. Our phase 1 option is remote, but right now we'll say we're in phase 4, which is in person with some remote students and health and safety measures in place. You know, it's a challenge for schools to decide things on their own to make a difference to the community. And I guess this is the point I'm just going to make. As long as businesses, restaurants, bars remain open, just closing school isn't necessarily going to cause a dramatic decrease in local community spread. So you know, my way of looking at this, and I guess I'm telling you this because we did make a big decision yesterday, and it happened fast. And my rationale for recognizing that there's a broader community at work here and to work together is that without some other changes, if there is community spread going on and only our schools close, that's really not going to change things. But if we operate together, and usually that's done with governmental oversight, and if through governmental oversight we're asked to close along with other organizations in the community, that's going to be the best way for communities to reduce the risk of this. So I do pay attention, and we all do, we pay attention to what the executive department is saying, what they're suggesting, and then sometimes what they're telling us to do, of course. In the end, because we can't really operate on our own effectively, operating together is the best way to go. So we're paying close attention to that. So all that being said, here's the good news, right? We have successfully completed 1/4 of the school year in person every day, and that is reason to celebrate. And I'm here to tell you, a lot of people around here feel that level of celebration. We also know, realistically, that any day that can change. And that should all give us reason to pause and to maintain the kind of health and safety precautions that we've been doing. So that's what I wanted to say about COVID and where we stand, especially in light of yesterday's decisions that were being made in the region, and including here. We were making a decision to maintain what we were doing. As far as other news and updates, so this week also marks the end of something. It marks the end of the fall athletic season. Girls modified soccer ended yesterday. The boys varsity soccer team plays tomorrow and Saturday. The cross country team had their last cross country meet last Saturday. It's been a shortened season, but we've had good participation and we've had positive attitudes on the soccer field and on the cross country course. So I just want to say special thanks to our coaches, our athletic director, especially our athletic director, John Burdick, who really took the lead in navigating us through this athletic season. So thank you very much to all those people, as well as the student athletes who gave it their all during a limited and restricted season. So that's one thing, the athletics. Second thing, this Wednesday, that's tomorrow, we are celebrating a holiday, and that's Veterans Day. So in school, we celebrate that by not having school. Right? And in the community, there is still the American Legion post through 26. They're going to honor the service of our local veterans with a series of flag ceremonies. That'll be tomorrow. Unfortunately, COVID limits our participation in that. Typically on any given year, our marching band would be marching down Main Street and playing music for these ceremonies. And we won't be able to do that this year, but I hope that we can all take a moment to remember and honor our veterans on this special day. And hopefully next year, the school will be able to participate in those ceremonies. And then academically, this past Friday also marked the end of the first quarter, the first marking period at each school. And so that means that teachers are finishing their grading, report cards are being prepared. They'll be available at the end of this week. Parents are encouraged to participate in the conferences that will follow the production of the report cards. So that's a usual thing. Our calendar is fairly typical, with one exception that you'll be looking at tonight. So our conferences are scheduled for Monday the 23rd, and that was on the original calendar. And then, as you know, tonight, I'm asking you to consider allowing us to extend those conferences to the second half of the day on the 24th. And that's really just to accommodate the extra time that all this technology takes trying to put together Zoom conferences. You saw it here tonight. You know, we're all fumbling, trying to pull things together and make it work. And our teachers feel pressed at that also. And so if you think it's a good idea, hopefully then you'd vote to approve that. So I just want to thank you in advance for considering it. But however it works, I do encourage our families to sign up for one of the conferences, and please come talk to the teachers, even virtually, about progress that each student is having. It's just a great opportunity for people to communicate and you know, really important people in the lives of a child, right? Their parents, of course, but also their teacher. This is one of those few times they really get to meet and talk about that child. So I hope everyone gets a chance to do that. And I believe that is everything I have. Any questions or comments?
Roger, I just have a comment. I asked you a little bit about this yesterday, and then ironically tomorrow night we hear that Saranac Lake and all of Franklin County. But I have heard a lot from parents when I'm out and about, the great concern that some of them at least have about the return to school after Thanksgiving, when so many families are still planning to travel and be with family members and then come back. And I know that you don't have a crystal ball to see how this is going to play out, but it is a concern.
Of course it is, Colleen. And as you know, the SUNY schools are all, most colleges are sending students home at Thanksgiving. The SUNY schools have made a decision to send students home at Thanksgiving, to not return until February 1st, right? To really just cover this big chunk of the calendar. Again, like I said before, we don't know what statewide any steps that will be taken. I think it's really important to pay attention to the statewide steps that are taken for the same reason that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
If a school, one small school district like ours makes a decision that may have some benefit locally, but not nearly the kind of benefit if it's shared by the other businesses and organizations in the community. So I think if our school district takes steps, but those other businesses and organizations don't, then the gains are very small. Right now, we are looking out for the best interests of our students. We certainly will act immediately, as we do almost every day with every sniffle, to respond to any kind of threat or risk for our students. We're looking out for the best interests of our students, but the best course of action is to make sure that we're also working in tandem with the community. So we're going to be paying close attention to that. Doesn't mean we can't make a decision separate from what the governor or the county health department makes, but it's better if we can make these decisions together. So I guess that's where I stand tonight. And as you learned yesterday, things change pretty fast. So we'll see where it goes.
Thanks, Roger.
Any other questions, comments? Thanks, everybody.
So Franklin County, their vote, was that based off the merge declaration from the county?
The decision that was made by the Franklin County Schools, it was made by each school district. And it was made in consultation with the County Department of Health and the county legislators. County Department of Health advocated strongly for the Franklin County Schools to close their doors because of their recent spread and their inability to determine what the source was of some of those cases. So they were looking to schools to make a step. Schools decided to do it. Most of that spread is in the north end. Even south end schools in Franklin County decided to make that step to support the protection that Franklin County Health was asking for. And I think that's again, that's their decision to make, and they made it with the best of information and also with the best of intentions. My greatest concern with that is that only schools are making that shift right now, and that those other businesses are not. And I think without those other businesses making a shift, then it leaves the door open. Many people, you know how I get very defensive about schools. So let me do it just a little bit more, right? Many people point to our schools and they say, well, the schools being open are risky, right? And I look at our schools and I say, we have hundreds of students that we have participating in this health and safety precautions at a very high level all day long. And it's not just that we're asking them to do it. We're monitoring, we're supervising. I would even say we're enforcing that these are in place. When people are not in an organization like that, like ours, they're sort of left to their own devices. Some choose to do it and some choose not to do it. So while I understand that putting people in a congregate setting like ours, like any school, does come with additional risks, I think we also have to recognize that the kind of oversight we provide for people actually improves the health and safety situation. It decreases the risk because people aren't practicing, making bad decisions and practicing unhealthy, unsafe behavior. Now, that's my opinion, and I speak as a representative of the school district, but I think too often people look at us as just risk, no reward. I would tell you that we bring a lot of reward to this, that when our kids are here in school, they're doing the right thing. And so are the staff and faculty members that are here. So I'm really proud of what we've accomplished, but I also think that we are acting in the best interest of the community. So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I don't know that before that, if Essex County told us to shut our doors and the businesses on Main Street are open and the tourists are coming here by the thousands, that we're expected to shut our doors. So I don't know that I would be, I mean, we would have a vote on that, I guess. I don't know. It's probably a good thing I'm not on Zoom right now. So.
Right. These are good points, but you're making good points, Leah. Yes. I think you're making good points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm a hardliner on this one, but unless we get a letter from the Department of Health, from Cuomo himself.
Well, we might. You just never know. Governor Cuomo likes to send letters and make decisions. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Just one comment. I think you and the administration can be proud of keeping the central school, like Blessed Central School, safe and open. Having been in Tupper Lake, Saranac Lake, and Lake Placid today, all three sites, I get an immense amount of feedback from various parents, teachers that are extremely envious of this school district. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Do we have in school for part of the day versus not being able to go over to the Adirondack Center?
Yeah, you're asking a really important question that we're struggling with right now. What we're so the situation is that even though we're in person with the BOCES joining in with the remote shift, our students who are at BOCES will be expected to do remote instruction. We do have a number of students, over 40 students who attend the Adirondack Education Center. There's two issues there in terms of what we can do to accommodate things here. One is space, and as you know, because of the situation, we are spread out, so we don't have a lot of open space. The second is staffing, right? Because when you have students anywhere, you supervise them, and of course, most of our staff is counted for. So, you know, we're looking at the list, we're looking at the situation, we're talking to people at BOCES. I don't have an answer for you right now because it all just happened so fast, but we're talking about it and we're working on it.
Anyone else? If not, we'll move into information for the board. There's multiple files, state education, parent dashboard, extracurricular activity report, draft of the 2021-22 budget calendar. I reread that several times, but I guess that's real. This school board election timeline and the future planning, post-pandemic future planning. Any discussion on any of these items or questions?
Hard to think that we are going to start talking about budget again.
It is. Okay, if not, linking goals with agenda items, anyone?
I like the ones that have been chosen already. I just had one. Does Anders' presentation fall under
Yes.
students first and foremost? And
Yep. I had his presentation, Sarah's presentation, Martha's report, capital project and the donation. Any additional, please let Karen know. Right on to the change orders. You'll find multiple change orders in the attachments. I guess that's multiple, right? 14. As was noted in the narrative, recall that only change orders that exceed $30,000 require board approval. So these are all correct informational only.
GC 25 is $47,000.
Okay, but that's the auditorium, right, which was,
The auditorium. I just wanted to double check that. I knew there was a
Okay.
big one. Yeah.
yeah, and that we voted on previously. So, any questions, concerns, comments?
Just kind of quickly go to what Eric mentioned. I did submit that the document to SCD for early aid release.
Great.
Fiscal advisors, I sent them all the information, they prepared the reports. I signed them, and they got mailed in, so hopefully, I think it looks like it gives us like a year period where we potentially get our full aid this year, saying that the project will be completed by, I think, that July 2021 date was put out on there. That's all.
Great.
In that timeframe.
Thank you. That was nice to hear. Okay. Next item is the minutes. That's under consent. And then we go to the personnel matters, teaching staff sabbatical leave upon the recommendation of the superintendent. Approve the sabbatical leave of absence for Jeanette Dugan, social studies teacher at the high school, commencing January 25th, 2021 through June 30th, 2021, in accordance with Article 29F of the Lake Placid Educational Association's contract, dated July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. May I have a motion to accept this sabbatical?
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Colleen, and seconded Martha. Is that okay? Thank you. Any discussion? This was the item we discussed last meeting. Is there any additional? If not, we will vote on this.
7 yes.
7-4-0 against, and the sabbatical passes. Long-term teaching staff appointment. Whoa, stress test. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Michelle Minot is hereby appointed to long-term position of social studies teacher in the middle and high school, replacing Jeanette Dugan for the remainder of the 2020-21 school year. Salary will be in accordance with Article 23B of the negotiated agreement of the Lake Placid Educational Association, dated July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. This service will not be credited towards tenure. May I have a motion to approve this long-term teaching appointment?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Second? Thank you, Daniel. Any discussion? If not, please vote.
7 yes.
Okay, 7 yes, 0 no, so the motion passes. Additional action items. The external audit report was on the consent agenda. Next up is a donation acceptance, recommended action. Whereas the Lake Placid Central School District's Board of Education policy number 6255, donations, gifts, and grants to the district, allows for the superintendent of schools to accept on behalf of the board gifts and donations having a value of less than $1,500. Whereas monies have been received in total amount of $3,059.90 from the Adirondack Foundation Educational Opportunity Fund for the purpose of funding the ukuleles for the 5th grade students and the Gizmo virtual science teaching resource for Mrs. Morgan's classes. Now therefore be it resolved in accordance with policy 6255, the Board of Education hereby accepts the check from the Adirondack Foundation Ed Op Fund in the amount of $3,059.90 for the equipment and resources as mentioned above. May I have a motion to accept this, please?
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Martha. Is there a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Discussion.
Actually, I'm going to suggest a change to the resolution. Mrs. Morgan is only one of the science teachers, but this is actually for all of the science teachers.
Okay.
So you could say, you could change the resolution if that isn't too difficult.
Virtual
to,
science teacher.
all science teachers classes.
All science classes,
Yeah.
is that? Okay.
Are those ukuleles replacing the recorders?
Yeah, I believe so. Well, for now, yes.
And I think it's a great move.
And all the wind instruments that can't be used right now.
I mean, I think getting rid of the recorders is a great idea. As a father of three, I just.
Rick, you're on mute.
Okay, please vote, please.
Seven yes.
Okay. So donation acceptance passes 7-4-0 against. C, the LGS 1 resolution is consent. And then D is the 2020-21 calendar amendment. Recommended action is upon a recommendation of the superintendent, set aside the adopted 2020-21 calendar and adopt the attached 2020-21 calendar by adding an additional parent-teacher conference day to November 24th, 2020. May I have a motion to accept this amendment, please?
Yes.
Is that Liam? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Daniel. Second. Roger, would you like to, I think you mentioned it already. Is there any other elaboration?
I think I did. Essentially, this is a chance to ensure that we're not attempting to squeeze all of our conferences into that one period, given the extra challenges of the Zoom or the Google Hangouts video conference approach. And so this would provide just that extra leeway. Hopefully it will not only allow more flexibility for parents, but it will make the teachers' conferences a little more beneficial for everybody, including the teachers, so that they're not so stressed at getting the technology right that they overlook the importance of what they're talking about. And I think so this is hopefully just to benefit the quality of the conferences themselves.
Any other discussion, questions? If not, would you please vote?
Seven yes.
Okay, motion passes 7 yes, 0 no. Next item up is the special education, which is the consent. There is the November 17th packet. If there are questions, we have our resident expert here to answer them. Any questions on the November 17th packet? I'm amazed at how much paperwork there is.
Does it with a smile.
That's right. Under that mask. Next up is good of the cause. Karen, have we had any?
No emails.
Okay, no emails. Great. Going into the adjournment phase of the meeting. Next meeting date and location, November 17th. Have we decided on the 17th?
Do we need it?
Do we need it or?
Karen, you need it?
I printed out the next two agendas, and I think we could combine them into one.
Okay, there's no urgent pressing issues. Okay.
No.
So we'll, if, unless there's an objection, we will strike the November 17th meeting. Liam, I'm waiting for you to jump all over this, but.
I'll make that motion.
So the next meeting is December 1st, 2020, and then December 15th, 2020, and we'll end there. Old agenda items, anything anybody has? New agenda topic, agenda topics. Okay, if not, recommended action is to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. A second. I saw a hand here. Colleen, seconded by Colleen. The meeting is adjourned at 8:18. Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes.
Happy Thanksgiving. Stay well.